Caitlin and welcome to another video. This video is going to be my wrap-up video for the Live Below the Line challenge, in which I only spent $1.50 a day on my food for 5 days, which is the equivalent of the extreme poverty line. If this is the first video that you're seeing in this series, I already filmed a grocery haul video explaining the challenge a little bit more and the products that I chose to buy. Plus, I filmed 2 other videos showing you all the meals that I ate over the course of 5 days. So in this video, I just wanted to wrap everything up, address some of the comments and topics that were discussed the most in the comment section of the video. Plus, I wanted to give you guys a few resources so you can further educate yourself and learn more about poverty. So I think the biggest overarching comment that I wanted to address was the fact that a lot of people were commenting on my videos and saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so great that you're doing this challenge and showing how you can be healthy and vegan while you're on a budget." And that was not necessarily the point of this challenge. While I am a vegan and I wholeheartedly believe in veganism, I didn't film these videos to show people that you can be vegan on any budget. I showed them more to show you guys how difficult it can be to live in poverty and how the diet that some people eat is not necessarily healthy. Personally, I would not consider the food that I was eating over those 5 days to necessarily be unhealthy junk food, but at the same time, if I continued that over a long period of time, I would not necessarily consider that to be a healthy diet either. And a lot of you were interested in the breakdown of the foods I was eating, so I put it all into Chronometer, which is an online website that sort of counts your calories and macronutrients, so I wanted to talk you guys through that. And just a disclaimer, I did it more based on the packaging, but obviously I couldn't find the exact products on the website, so it's a rough estimate, but I tried to do it by calories based on the information in the packet because I feel like that would be the most accurate results. So I have it on my computer down here, so if I'm looking down, that's why, but I'm going to put some screenshots up here so you guys can all follow along as well. So I basically divided all of my food into fifths since I ate roughly the same thing every day. And overall, you can see that I ate around 1,885 calories every day, 13% of that being protein, 16% fat, and 71% carbs. Now, as a lot of you probably know, for my height and weight, the World Health Organization recommends that I eat around 2,000 to I think 2,500 calories a day in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle, but as you can see on this budget, this was just not possible. And I talked about this in my experience in those other vlogs, saying how I was really hungry because I was eating less than I was used to. But what if you're in a situation where you can't afford enough food in order to get by? And as far as the nutritional breakdown of this food, as you can see on the screen, I met around 75% of my daily targets, which isn't terrible, but it's not great either. One thing I did want to mention though was, even though I was a vegan, I hit more than 100% of all of my protein requirements. But fat, carbs, and proteins, I think macronutrient wise, you can get a little give and take there. I wanted to talk about the vitamins and minerals though. As you can see, I was okay on vitamins B3, B6, folate, and vitamin A, but I was lacking on about over half of them, which is a significant amount. So over time, this could definitely build up and lead to vitamin deficiencies, especially if I couldn't afford to take a multivitamin. And the same thing is pretty much with minerals. I hit a few. I hit copper, manganese, and phosphorus. Honestly, that was all probably from the beans and rice. But other than that, I am lacking in a good amount of them. Do I think that if I had a little bit more money, I'd be able to hit all of these nutritional deficiencies? Yes, absolutely. But the point of this challenge was to live like someone would live in extreme poverty. So this brings me to the point that not only is health a privilege, but I do think that veganism is a privilege too. And while I would love for everyone to be vegan, I think we need to understand that in some circumstances, people may not even know what veganism is, or they may not even have access to healthy, nutritious vegan food, or even just healthy food at all. You may be familiar of the concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a principle in psychology, and basically it's a pyramid. And each level of the pyramid is sort of like an upgrade. So in order to ascend to the next level of the pyramid, you have to have the bottom. And the bottom of the pyramid is your physiological needs, so your water and your food. And people who live below the line or live in poverty, they're not even meeting this need. And if you would categorize veganism, I would probably categorize it as an abstract thought, so I put it up at the top with self-actualization. So if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, if someone was starving and they could not afford to fuel themselves properly, and they were constantly thinking about what their next meal was going to be and if they were going to get their next meal, do you really think that they would give a chicken nugget a second thought? And I'm not saying this to say that I don't think that people should be vegan. I just want everyone to realize that veganism is a privilege and we should be grateful that we have the opportunity to be vegan. On that note, like I said, being healthy is a privilege too. And on this challenge, I was able to go to a grocery store or a dollar store and purchase all of my food items. However, what if I didn't even have access to a food store, like a healthy grocery store or a food store in general? Honestly, I still had a car, so that may not exactly replicate the challenge, but there are a lot of people out there who don't have cars and rely on public transportation, or they may live so far away from the grocery store that they only go once a month. And this would be the concept of a food desert. So even in the United States, for example, there are a number of places in the US where people live more than a mile away from a grocery store. And this would be categorized as a food desert because you may not have time to get to that grocery store and even purchase healthy food. And so a lot of people in these circumstances have to use their food stamps at gas stations or local convenience stores that are closer by simply for convenience. And if you really think about it, you're probably not going to find a lot of healthy produce or vegan options at these places. And that's why it's super frustrating, because people are able to spend their food stamps on junk food when if we really wanted people who live in poverty and may have poor health because they can't afford healthy food to be healthier, we should help fund them and give them access and opportunities to purchase healthy and nutritious foods, not like 99-cent bags of chips. So along those lines, it's also kind of frustrating because the meat and dairy and processed food industries have such a role in the US government that those types of foods are subsidized while healthy produce is not. So just for fun, I thought I would go back to the dollar store and just pick up some random junk food that a standard person who was on a low budget might buy in a week. And honestly, I didn't put a lot of thought into this. Maybe this would be someone who wasn't so health conscious and they just picked whatever food looked appetizing to them. So while I was there, I grabbed a bag of popcorn, a loaf of white bread, some tater tots, white rice, ramen, eggs, Pop-Tarts, and a can of salsa, just because that was 50 cents and I had $7.50. And I'm not saying I would personally eat these foods or that I would condone eating these foods, but I'm just using this purely as an example. But when I came back to my apartment, I added up all the calories, and if I only ate all of that food for a span of 5 days, it would be 2,094 calories. So that's more than what I ate on my challenge because I chose to try to pick foods that were healthier. But if you think about it, at the end of the day, if you're starving for calories, you're not going to choose a frozen bag of mixed vegetables because that might be a healthier option. You're going to go for the loaf of the white bread because that's going to last you a hell of a lot longer. And that being said too, that's still not enough food to help get you by. I mean, I am a pretty small and petite female. If I was a larger, taller male, I would be starving. And that's just so unjust and unfair, and it blows my mind. It also blows my mind how a dozen eggs are only $1, but I can get a bag of mixed vegetables, which is maybe 2 cups of vegetables total, for $1. And if you think about it, the quality of those two foods and which one's going to more dramatically impact your health, obviously the vegetables, but the government subsidizes the eggs, and this perpetuates a vicious cycle. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover on the topic of overall health and is this healthy or whatever. And now I kind of wanted to segue into my overall thoughts about the challenge. I shared some of my experiences and my emotions with you guys during the previous 2 videos that I filmed, but I would say overall, I was very hungry, my energy levels were low, and I was definitely having a lot more problems concentrating. And my experience on this challenge, I mean, wasn't even a very genuine experience because I obviously still have tons of privilege in my life. You know, I was living in my apartment where I had a roof over my head, I had access to transportation, plus I was still receiving my education, which leads me to the point that this challenge kind of fell during my finals week at school, which may not have been the brightest idea, but I still did okay on all of my finals. But one of the things that I noticed during this challenge was that it was so much harder for me to focus on my studies and to concentrate because I was hungry. And this is actually a really big problem with kids who live in poverty and are going to school. They may act out in class simply because they're hungry, or they may not be as doing well in their classes because they're hungry and they can't concentrate. It's the same thing as Maslow's pyramid of needs. Like, you know, you need your food and your water, and you need to feel secure in that pyramid before you can move up and start thinking about higher education and higher level things. So let's say a child grows up in poverty and he doesn't do very well in school because he's hungry and he starts acting out and he decides school isn't for him and he's just going to continue his life, not pursue higher education past high school or whatever, and then he or she meets someone and then they marry and they have a child, and the parents are poor, so then the child is poor as well, and the child's going to go through the exact same system and have less of an opportunity to advance educationally and to get food and feel like a nourished whole person, and the cycle can perpetuate and perpetuate and perpetuate, and we're not doing anything about it. So by that role, poverty and just simply not getting enough food has such a dramatic impact on your education and your future career and the opportunities you're going to be given in life. I, for one, am grateful that just by chance I was born into a family where my parents were able to provide me with a roof over my head and I never went hungry and I had plenty of food to eat. But I think it's important that we all acknowledge that any of us could have been born into any situation, and if I was born into a less affluent family and was raised in poverty, I probably would not be where I am today, and that's the essence of privilege. I'm obviously not an expert on this topic, but it was something that really struck me and that I wanted to sort of talk about a little more, so hopefully you guys found that informative. And on that note, I wanted to provide you guys with a few additional resources in case you wanted to do your own research. Because like I just said, I'm obviously not an expert. You could probably learn so much more than I know just by going around the internet a little, but I did want to share the knowledge that I had gained with you guys. So I'm going to recommend 3 documentaries for you all to watch. I have seen a few of them, but I haven't seen all of them. A few of you guys recommended them to me. The first one is called A Place at the Table, and it talks about how hunger plays a role in socioeconomic and cultural aspects, especially in the United States, just because that's where the movie takes place. The next one is on Netflix, so the first one may be harder to find, but I'm sure you could still find it if you really wanted to. But the next one is on Netflix, and it is called Living on $1, and it's about, I think, a group of 4 guys. I've seen this one, and they go to rural Guatemala, and they live on $1 a day for, I didn't write down for how long, but I think it's around a month or something. It's really eye-opening, and I appreciate how it's not just about the US and it's more of a global perspective, so I would really suggest you check that movie out as well. And then the final movie I'm going to recommend is called Poverty Incorporated, and it's how Western influences on less affluent countries may not necessarily have a positive impact, because there seems to be a recent trend in larger companies wanting to do charity work, but sometimes they go about charity work in the wrong way. And essentially the movie talks about how you need to invest in the people and help them build sustainable futures for themselves, not just giving them free gifts or whatever. And then finally, I wanted to talk about a few different charities you guys could donate to. Now, just because you watch this video, you're in no way obligated to donate, but I think that if you're in a situation where you can afford to buy organic food, or you buy all of your own groceries and you're not living on $1.50 a day, you probably have a few extra dollars that you could donate to a charity. Even if, for example, you donate what you spend on a week of groceries to one of these charities, that's still making a huge difference, and think of how much of an impact you could have on someone else's life. So the first charity is called Oak Tree. They're based in Australia, and it's a youth or younger people run movement, and they fight to end poverty. They're the ones who actually started the Live Below the Line challenge, so I actually donated a week's worth of grocery price or whatever, you know what I'm saying, to this charity after I finished my Live Below the Line challenge, just because I did the challenge and I thought it would be appropriate to donate to them. But like I said, I think you guys should all do your own research and figure out which one of these charities best resonates with your values. I wrote information about all these charities down here below again, so that's why I'm reading. But the next charity is called the Hunger Project, and they use donations to fund sustainable and women-led business groups in developing countries. Similarly, along those lines, there's also Action Against Hunger, and this charity helps malnourished children while providing communities with access to safe water and sustainable solutions to hunger. And then finally, I think everybody pretty much knows about UNICEF, but they provide humanitarian and developmental assistance to women and children in need. So I'm going to have all of these websites linked in the description of this video if you want to check these charities out and you feel like you could spare a few extra dollars to donate to them. Oh, and if you have another charity that you think is worthy of donations, definitely let me know. I didn't do a totally exhaustive search, and it'd be great to let other people know about it as well, so comment that below. Alright guys, that sums up this video. I feel like I could probably talk forever about this topic because there is so much information out there, so please just realize that this is just a glimpse of the overall arching theme that poverty is so freaking unfair. And I know that doesn't sound very educated, and I tried to make this educated, but you know, just doing this challenge for 5 days, and it's laughable because I was like, oh my gosh, this challenge was so hard. I had to eat rice and beans and I was hungry, but like, this is real life for some people. You know, some people can't even afford to eat what I ate. And yes, some people get assistance through government-run programs, but some people don't. And I definitely live a privileged life, and this challenge really helped me acknowledge that. And in the few days since the challenge ended, I'm filming this video, I'm just so much more aware of all the opportunities and things that I've been given in life that I really should be grateful for. So I am really, really glad that I decided to do this challenge, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to share it all with you, because I mean, I do have a larger platform where I have the opportunity to share things with a larger audience. And so I do hope that you guys maybe consider doing the challenge for yourself, or that you've just learned something from this video and from my experience, and you think more about poverty and how much you may have to be grateful for given the situation that you're in. This video is going to be really long, so I'm not going to drag it out, but if you made it to this part in the video, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I do really, really appreciate it. If you have the time, please educate yourself about poverty and how it's unjust and how it's an easily avoidable problem where if we all banded together, we could probably do something to change it and help those people who are in need. And yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.